Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen demands I pay her rent because she's pregnant and quit her job. After that, am I the jerk for having a lights-out wedding even though my in-laws-to-be aren't happy about it? And after that, I canceled our Mother's Day celebration after hearing what my wife told my son. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to pay her own rent. But that's what you're for, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands I pay her rent because she's pregnant and quit her job. I'm 18, female, and my brother, who's 21, and his girlfriend, who are 20, are currently living with my parents, who are 40 and 46. She moved in after my brother revealed that she was pregnant and that he wanted her to live with us in case something were to happen, since he doesn't have his own place and neither does she. She is not a good person. She's extremely manipulative and she's bipolar. I've had problems with her in the past because I've caught her wearing my clothes, using my skincare and makeup, and just overall invading my privacy, as well as my younger brother's, who's 17. I've brought this up to my parents and they took it with a grain of salt, so I began to dislike her more and more as she continued to cause problems for me and my brothers. Anyways, she's 4 weeks pregnant and she's already milking it. She'll whine to my brother about her pregnancy cravings, how much her stomach hurts, how tired she is, how she needs a bigger bed to sleep in. They sleep on a twin-sized bed in the living room, and a bunch of other BS. She also brought up quitting her job due to feeling sick all the time, and my parents opposed this since she wouldn't be able to pay rent. Fast forward a few days later, and she quits anyways, and she doesn't have rent money, and neither does my brother since his payday wasn't for another week or so. So they come up to my room and ask for $200 to pay their rent. I tell them no, and she goes on this rant about how sick she feels and how much pain she's in because of the baby, and that she would have the money if she weren't forced to quit. I explode on her and tell her that I don't give a hoot that she's pregnant, a few weeks pregnant at that, and that she'll just be using it as an excuse to leech off my parents and my brother. We get into a screaming match, which results in her crying and my brother calling me a heartless jerk. And they run and tell my parents about how mean I was being to her. My parents are on my side, and they told her that I'm right about her being lazy and that they are not allowed to ask me or my younger brother for rent in the future. But they thought that I took it overboard by saying that I didn't care that she was pregnant and for calling her a leech. Her and my older brother are ignoring me now, and they said that if I don't apologize for what I said, then they are going to continue to not speak to me, and they're going to keep the baby away from me once she gives birth. I'm not sure if I should apologize. I want to be in the baby's life, but I simply do not feel sorry for anything I said. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. No need to apologize. She is a leech, and you don't have to care about her being pregnant. Poor baby, if there really is one. Plus, if OP doesn't apologize, they won't speak to her, aka ask for more money, and will keep the baby away, aka not try to force her into free babysitting. Sounds like a win-win to me. Not the jerk. Oh no, a lazy mother is going to keep her newborn away from me. Whatever will I do? Not the jerk. And for your sake, I hope they keep the baby away from you. With 2 brothers and you being the sister, they will do almost anything to get free childcare from you. Lock down your stuff and your information. Protect yourself from identity theft because they will take loans in your name. Have a conversation with your brother, friend, or a parent in earshot about identity theft and how you would 100% prosecute to the fullest extent. These people are users, and in the words of my grandmother, people will feed you crap as long as you eat it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her brother and his girlfriend? Please let us know. Them cutting contact with you sounds like a win for you. Never apologize. Am I the jerk for having a lights-out wedding, even though my in-laws-to-be aren't happy about it? I, 27 female, am the daughter of the most amazing parents that ever did amaze. No, they're not perfect, but they've literally done everything they could in their lives to make sure I was happy to the best of their ability. They are also both blind. Being raised by blind parents wasn't without its challenges, but we always found solutions or compromises. But the one thing that was often a point of contention, especially when I was a teenager, was clothing and fashion. My parents have their own way of being fashionable, and rather than appearance, it's fabric and feel. This has resulted in them having a very eclectic sense of fashion, but I honestly love it. I admit that I hated it as a teenager, as I had no say over my own wardrobe purchases, but I realized after I moved out that I really did prefer to feel comfortable in my clothes over how I looked in them. Took many stupid expensive clothing purchases to realize this, but I digress. Nothing is mismatched anymore, but I have a super cozy wardrobe. With the wedding planning in full swing, my fiancé asked me if I was going to be okay with the photos. He did not mean this maliciously. It just didn't occur to him that I was originally planning to buy them clothing to wear. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wouldn't a fabric wedding be special? Essentially, the whole wedding will be in the dark. I was inspired by a restaurant I saw in a movie. I realized that I don't want to dress my parents. I want them to be comfortable and to enjoy our wedding the way they experience it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I want to experience this special day as they would too. My fiancé, honest to God, does not care. In his mind, the moment I said yes, I became his wife. I love him. To avoid accidents, we're going to be using glow stick lighting, and everyone will be provided free bracelets and necklaces. They light up enough to not crash into each other, but not so much as to light up the room. We're also hiring event staff with night vision for this equipment too. When we announced, most of the family was supportive. My family goes without saying. Fiancé's family is iffy. His brother loves the idea and is going to come in a velvet suit, a la Austin Powers. Honestly, it's his parents that are really against it. We had a huge fight over it when they argued that it's not fair to punish the guests because my parents are blind. The reason I think I may be the jerk is because the part of his family that is siding with his parents are vowing to boycott if we don't have lights. My husband just thinks it's their loss and that his parents will attend, even if begrudgingly. But I know it would hurt his relationship with them, and I don't want to do that. It's not that this is a hill I'm willing to die on, but it's my wedding, and this would be really special to me. In quotations, because my husband has told me he'd marry me in the Walmart if that's what I wanted. He just wants to marry me. Am I the jerk? Edit. I feel like I keep seeing these points brought up, so I'd like to address them. 1. We've hired a wedding planner whose literal job is to make sure this event runs smoothly and safely. They are literally being paid to factor in any contingency to ensure the safest experience. 2. There will literally be staff wearing night vision goggles monitoring every table to ensure everyone's safety, and so that if anyone needs help or guidance, they will provide it. Be it for serving food, to escorting other guests. There were 200 invites sent out, and 121 have RSVP'd yes. Each table is set to seat 6, so at this time we're paying for 20 extra hands to cover the tables for 121 guests. This isn't counting our table or the exits. 3. I've heard a lot of people imply that glow bracelets and glow necklaces won't be enough. Having been to many nightclubs and raves in my teens and early 20s, I can promise you that 121 wearing these is enough to see with, and the staff will manage the rest concerning tripping hazards and directions. 4. A lot of "you're the jerks" are making very valid points, and I'm discussing them with my fiancé. I'm also making a list of strong points to go over with my planner tomorrow. But for those people whose only argument is that they wouldn't be comfortable not being able to see, that's literally the point. You're not supposed to see. If someone came in a giant furry Sully from Monsters Inc. costume, I'd be thrilled when I ran into them. The wedding isn't going to be focused on visually enjoying the experience. It's about hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling it. I know for a fact that enjoyment isn't dependent on sight. Okay, cool concept, sounds great on paper, but in reality, someone is going to get hurt. Someone is going to fall or miss a step, or run into someone else and they will fall. Glow sticks are not enough. You can't see people's feet with glow sticks. What if someone chokes on food and no one can see them? Choking people aren't loud and their airway is blocked. What about parents with kids? They will lose the kid in minutes. What about people who have allergies? They cannot see what they are eating. I think there are better ways to honor your parents. Maybe have a select time that the lights will go out, or a toast or something. You're the jerk. This is a bad idea. Edit. The point is to be uncomfortable. You are a jerk for that. You can have a wedding that honors your mom and dad without making other people uncomfortable. Really think about this. It will be dark, and there's a real chance of some sort of assault since no one will be able to see. It would take one person to make it a nightmare for everyone. Oh, look, I just got grabbed. Oh goodness, just think if one of the servers was a creep. I have night glasses and everyone else is blind. Heck, it would be so easy for someone to steal from the other guest. It's pitch black. Servers will not be able to know whose stuff belongs to who. Someone could start grabbing purses and leave. I'm not even going to mention people who have anxiety or fears of the dark, since I'm sure this would be a nightmare for them. Edit 2. I've really been thinking about this. Think of the people who get surprised easily. They will either flee, fight, or freeze. If someone startles and they are a fighter, then you're going to have someone panic and boom, now we have someone injured due to a punch or something. Anyone that panics and is loud, shots or whatnot, yeah, that will be fun. Or just think if there were an actual emergency. People already panic during those, but now you are adding that they are in the dark. Not to mention the legal liability if an older person falls and breaks their hip, especially if they live in America, because OP would most likely be liable for their medical bills and hip surgery can cost thousands, even with insurance. Not the jerk. Do what you want, but I think you could have a little more empathy for where his parents are coming from. Your parents have been adapting to navigating the world blind their whole lives. For people who are used to sight, being thrust into a crowded situation where they can barely see could be incredibly uncomfortable and even a bit scary, glow sticks notwithstanding. What about guests who have anxiety issues? Guests with mobility issues where the lack of sight could lead to an injury? Guests who are hard of hearing who really don't need another barrier to their functioning? If you're going to do your wedding this way, you need to accept that people who aren't comfortable aren't going to come. So if the darkness is more important than your in-laws' presence, so be it. But they're not jerks for finding it upsetting. Edit. You're the jerk. Sorry, can't let my original judgment stand after seeing your responses and edits. You are obnoxious. You made it sound like you cared a little about whether you were being a jerk or insensitive to others, but it's clear you don't care at all. All you care about is your special idea and slamming it forward no matter what anyone else says. It sounds like your parents spoiled you and you found a similarly passive fiance who won't stand up to you. So the idea that your quirky little idea isn't amazing is just unfathomable to you. None of the plans you're making really account for any of the issues. A wedding planner can only do so much. Servers can only do so much. People are going to be moving around and dancing for more than you're accounting for. Your example of a place with adequate vision for all is a rave? Would you bring your elderly grandma to a rave? And yes, I've been to raves. You don't care that this idea is actually crappy to people with disabilities, including your parents, who could very well get hurt when people are stumbling around in the crowd. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for wanting to have a lights-out wedding or not? Please let us know. Oh, I can't wait to read the comments we get about this one. I canceled our Mother's Day celebration after hearing what my wife told my son. I, male 37, have a 13-year-old son. I was a widower when I met my now wife. She has a 16-year-old daughter from another relationship. The family is often on pretty good terms. My son is the quiet one in the house. He keeps to himself a lot, but not to the point of being concerning. My wife and stepdaughter are the complete opposite. They both encourage him to be outgoing and share activities and join gatherings with extended family. My son complained about having to be forced out of his comfort zone and having his need for space invalidated. I spoke to both my wife and stepdaughter and asked them to give space and freedom to spend his time however he wanted. They apologized and promised to let him be. As Mother's Day was approaching, I wanted to throw my wife a surprise Mother's Day celebration. It was no longer a surprise because my stepdaughter gave her the heads up so she could prepare. Yesterday, I got off work earlier than usual to get final arrangements done. We planned to celebrate at the restaurant and invited her family there. I had the key, and while I was entering the house through the front door, I overheard my wife and stepdaughter talking to my son. My wife was asking my son if he could convince me to let him stay home and not go with them to the restaurant to celebrate. I paused and decided to keep listening. My son asked why, and she told him that his introverted and socially inept attitude will make her family uncomfortable and will ruin the mood. He promised her that he'd be well behaved and would try to interact and socialize with everyone, but she said that she wasn't buying it. He kept reassuring her, but she snapped and told him that technically she's not his mom, so she didn't get why he wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with her so badly. My stepdaughter threw some, I don't remember, backhanded comment, and then both of them were shocked to see me standing there. Both were staring without saying anything. I told my son and his stepsister to go to their rooms. Then I told my wife that the celebration was off, canceled. She tried to argue, asking why repeatedly, and I told her why. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that, and that I only heard part of the conversation, but not all of it. I told her I was done arguing, and the decision was already made. She yelled, asking what she was going to tell her family, and said that I was making tremendous mistakes towards her. I ignored her while she kept throwing a tantrum after tantrum. Early this morning, she took my stepdaughter and went to stay with her folks. Not a single call or text from her so far. Situation is full of tension. I'm upset still, but more hurt to be honest. I mean, yes, I did say I was going to have this celebration, but I thought that what she said to my son was too harsh to ignore. Not the jerk. Guarantee they have done this before. Circle the wagons, protect your son. Such disgusting treatment from your wife upon your son. To make it even worse, she's raising her daughter to be cruel and exclusionary. Your son deserves so much better. OP. From the looks of it, I'm afraid they have, especially my wife. I know her, she can be harsh sometimes. Harsh is an understatement. She's a bully. Your son will grow to resent you if you don't do something about this. I have several siblings. My stepmom was just like this. Of my siblings, only 2 of us have a relationship with my father. OP, fix this crap. Not the jerk. OP, it's highly unlikely this is the first time either of them has been this nasty to him. You are all he has in this world. Please hire a really good shark of a divorce lawyer and divorce this woman ASAP. You need to protect your son and yourself. Edit. Change the locks and text her to tell her to stay with her parents. Malicious compliance to malicious compliance. I run a repair shop where I employ a bunch of local kids, ages 16 plus, to learn skills and make some money while we generally sit around and talk about the world while we fix things. We had a client come in with a busted electronic. We fixed it up for her and gave her a decent discount on the work. Her final bill for parts and 4 hours of labor was $100 even, discounted down from $220. She didn't like the bill. She didn't like the work. She claimed that we'd broken something else. She claimed that the kid who did the work didn't know what she was doing. She did, and I had supervised her. And that the kid who helped her in the front room was rude to her. He wasn't. She demanded to see the manager, so I popped out, listened to her tear into my employees, validated how she was feeling, but pointed out that the work she had asked for was done correctly, and her bill was due on pickup of the piece. The last straw for her came when she pulled out a credit card, and I had to inform her that we don't accept that particular card. She literally asked me, "Do you know who I am?" Which I didn't, still don't care. And I told her we'd take a personal check. She wrote out a check, problem solved. I deposited the day's checks and got a note from my bank that one had bounced. Her check, of course. I called her the next day to inform her that her check had been returned for insufficient funds and that she'd need to come in and pay her bill, plus the extra fee for a return check. All of these fees, just to point out, were clearly outlined on the service agreement she had signed, and we had already discounted her $120 just to be nice. Anyway, then she rolls into the office carrying a bag, and I knew exactly what was going on. She drops, of course, a bag of pennies on the front desk. She's breathing heavily. We're on the second floor, and she'd taken the stairs, and she announces triumphantly that she's here to pay her bill. She just needs to go get the rest of our hard-earned money, said with a sneer, of course. The kid at the front desk looks like he's about to cry, so I stop working on the thing I'm working on and take over. "How many more bags do you have?" I ask her, and she says that the nice people at the bank loaded them up in her car. She didn't count them. I told her that was fine. We'd wait for her to bring them all up and then settle up her bill. She was expecting a bigger reaction, I think. Either that or she hadn't thought this through. 10,000 pennies, plus the extra $25 weighs a lot, and she just committed to carrying them through a parking lot and up a flight of stairs. One of my kids, bless his heart, offered to help her carry them. She refused. Finally, shaking and sweaty, she deposited the last of the bags on the countertop. The pennies were loose, not in coin rolls. She had done some work to prove her point. What she hadn't counted on was that we'd need to count the pennies. While the other kids took care of the other clients and fixed things in the back, the front desk guy and I counted up the pennies. She started to realize that this was going to take a while and tried to leave. I told her that she couldn't leave until we had signed off on her bill, since at this point she was in violation of her service agreement and had passed a bad check. We couldn't just take her word for it, and I would inform our local authorities if she left without paying. I was kinda just talking, but she managed to tick me off a little. The other clients in the shop came and went, and we counted. Phone calls came in and were handled by the kids, and we counted. She sat in a chair, folding steel, not super comfortable, stood up again, walked around the office, and we counted. After a while, she just said, "Just forget it," and took out $125 in bills. We signed off on her agreement, and she started to leave. Another one of my kids, bless his heart, asked her if she wanted help carrying these pennies back to her car. She looked at all of us with a face of sheer panic, mumbled, "No thank you, just keep them," and bolted. The whole shop wasn't silent for a moment. Then one of the kids started giggling, and nobody could stop. People coming in thought we had gone nuts, and I finally had to banish everyone to the back room until they could breathe again. We loaded the bags into my vehicle. We used the elevator she had walked by a few times, took them to the bank, and used the coin machine to deposit them, then wrote out a donation to our local shelter for the amount she had dropped off. She posted something nasty on Facebook about it and got ratioed. She had, of course, posted earlier about what she was going to do, and she got called out with her own post. My favorite response was something like, "You said you were going to pay your bill in pennies. You paid your bill in pennies. What went wrong?" Please don't pay your bill in pennies, folks, especially if you're just doing it to be a jerk. "Ma'am, I'm a lifeguard, not your babysitter." So there was a small incident at my pool a few years back in the summer of 2014, one of the first years I'd worked there as a lifeguard. It's nothing as grandiose as some of the other encounters people on here have had, but I figured I could share it here. For background, it's a small HOA pool that struggles to staff people to the point where there's only one lifeguard on duty at a time, if we're even that lucky. The pay isn't terrible, and you only have to work 4.5 hours for a shift, but you also get to deal with some entitled folks now and then, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. There's a section in the rules that specifically states that unless a kid is 16 or over, they must have a parent or guardian at the pool with them. I've never had to enforce that until that day. A woman, our entitled parent of the day, came in with her 5-year-old, set the kid down, and went to leave. Now, as we require people to bring passes so we know that they're part of the neighborhood, as well as to make sure that they're not part of the list of people barred from the entrance due to being behind on payments or other disputes, I called out to her and politely asked her if she had her passes. She stops, has a slightly annoyed look on her face, and before walking back around the pool to give me the kid's pass, and then goes to leave again. I then ask if she has her pass or an ID on her, and she continues walking off to the exit, presumably not having heard me. I ask the kid to stay and I go after her, letting her know that she has to present a pool pass or photo ID if she wants to stay. It's at this point that she tells me, very rudely I might add, that she isn't staying. She has some things she needs to do and will be back in an hour, and would I just watch her kid? I reply, as calmly as I can, that I cannot allow her kid to be at the pool without supervision. "You're here, aren't you? Just do your job and watch her then," was the entitled mother's response. To which I replied, "My job is an associate of Walmart and a lifeguard here, ma'am, not a babysitter. If you'd like my services as one, my fee is $25 an hour. But otherwise, I will need you to either stay here and give me your pool pass or driver's license, the other form of ID we take if someone doesn't have their pass on them, or pay the $2 guest pass fee, or take your kid and leave." Apparently, my attitude did not please her because she took offense and demanded to speak to the person in charge. I probably shouldn't have done this, but I just said that she was speaking to them, being the only person on duty at the time, and later this would be true, as I would become the head lifeguard the very next year. However, if she wished to speak to the head of the pool committee, I would be more than happy to give them a call, which she said I should do, along with several words and adjectives that should not have been said around her kid, as she told me that she was going to report me for my attitude to her and for not doing my job. I went over to the phone and called my boss and let him know the situation before handing the phone to the woman. I could hear what was said, but it was clear he asked what had been said because she repeated my comment verbatim. All I heard after she finished was my boss's laughter. Needless to say, the poor kid did not get to go to the pool that day, and that's the only thing I regret about all of this. This isn't the only entitled person/parent story I have from my time working as a lifeguard, and I hope I can share more soon. Am I the jerk for not wanting my husband's friend to stay for the weekend? I'm 24, female. My husband, who's 26, has a friend who's 25. Let's call him A. A has been having some problems with his wife. We'll call her B, she's 22. To be honest, they don't seem like they're gonna last, but they're both trying to resolve the issues. They do not want to jump straight to divorce. For context, I'm 10 weeks pregnant with twins. A's wife is 24 weeks pregnant with a single baby. A's wife has had a very easy pregnancy while I have been extremely sick. I've been hospitalized twice, and I'm on the strongest medication I can be. I'm surviving, but barely. A and B have 2 kids already, who are 6 and 5, who will be coming with A if he comes to stay. They also have 4 dogs. My husband and I have not had any support from A and B at all while I've been in the hospital. barely even a text, most days, yet B expects me to text every day, and if I don't, she will grow increasingly aggravated with me, saying I don't care about her or her kids. B works an extremely flexible job, around 2 to 3 days a week. I am, at the moment, working 7 days a week to get my business up and running before maternity leave. Bad timing? Yes, but my husband and me are making it work for the sake of the twins. Enough context, onto the issue at hand. I texted B this morning, and she said that as we are supposed to be their friends, we should have A stay for the weekend to allow them some time to breathe and take some space. I felt like I couldn't say no, as B was saying I had always hated A, and that if I was being truthful and not hating A, I would open up my home to him and help them save their marriage. The thing is, I'm exhausted. I wanted a couple of evenings with my husband to relax and to just sleep, to be honest. But I know that him coming to stay means a weekend of them going out and partying, leaving me to do all the housework, take sole charge of the kids, and be responsible for the dogs, etc. I'm tired. I don't want to do this, but B persisted that if I loved their kids and wanted them to grow up with two parents who are together, I would let A come and stay. B would not relent, saying I would be responsible for their breakup, that A would think I hate him and God knows what will happen if he's left alone this weekend, and that if I said no, she would tell all of our mutual friends that I wanted them to break up. My husband has said it would look bad if I turned around and said no now, that it would make it seem like I do hate him, and that we really should have him stay. So now I'm facing a weekend of work, sole childcare, becoming a doggy daycare, and taking care of two hungover grown men, all while trying to keep my head above water with regard to the sickness and exhaustion that comes from the first trimester, let alone with twins. I know that so many people have it way worse, that some women are single mothers and have to cope with all of this alone, but I'm exhausted. So, am I the jerk for not wanting to have my husband's friends stay with us for the weekend? Update. Wow, I'm a bit blown away by how many people have agreed with me here. I went to see my husband on his lunch break and showed him this post. His reaction was unexpected. He sobbed. He admitted that he knew it was a jerk move to say yes to them coming, but he had been so scared by everything that had happened in the last few weeks that he wanted to feel normal. So we're going to go and stay with his parents for the weekend to be looked after by them, to be spoilt a little, like we both need. My husband's then booking me into a spa with a friend for a couple of days, but definitely not B. We're still torn about what to do regarding A and B and our friendship with them, but we're going to be turning our phones off this weekend to get some thinking room. Huge not the jerk. It's a crying shame that your husband doesn't have your back on this. Couples counseling is strongly advised. No, I don't work here, but that doesn't mean I can let you do that. So, a few months ago, I got back into law enforcement, where I'm now part of a specialized tactical unit. Most of the time, we're not in standard uniform. Instead, often we're in slacks, blue polos, and black tactical vests with the initials of our department on the front. See where this is going? I probably also should mention that I'm also wearing a fairly noticeable belt with my sidearm, radio, cuffs, all the normal cop stuff. So this morning, I'm in the local location for a big box store with a very similar uniform. I had been in the Lego aisle, which at this location backs up to the electronics section, so that it's Legos on one side and video games and glassy display cases with cheap locks that are easy to pick on the other. So I'm standing there considering getting something for a friend in another state who I may be seeing next month when a young woman walks up to me and asks if I work here. I point to the lettering on the front of my vest and politely tell her no. She apologizes and thanks me and walks down the aisle a bit. I finally decide not to get anything for my friend and turn to head out when I notice she's in the process of picking the lock on the display case, which pops off before I can even ask what she's doing. At this point, she sees me and waves before grabbing a handful of $100 games out of the case and shoving them under her shirt and starts heading for the front of the store. I decide to leave my cart and follow her. Lo and behold, she walks right past the registers and through the security scanners, which light up and start wailing. She starts walking faster, heading towards her car. I catch up to her just as she's trying to open it. I detain her and read her rights while the store manager and theft prevention officer catch up. We head back into the store where I radio for a patrol car while the manager takes care of pulling videos and getting the paperwork in order. The whole time, this lady is just sitting there and quiet, so I ask her what the heck was going through her head. Her reasoning was, "I didn't think you could arrest me while you were shopping." Am I the jerk for ordering an expensive meal with friends who always insist on splitting the bill? I, 24 female, get dinner every week or two with my friend group. For whatever reason, all three of them are super pro splitting the bill evenly 4 ways instead of simply paying for what they order. This wouldn't be an issue, but I usually get a salad for my main course because ordering most other things gives me a stomach ache, and I don't drink and I don't really like soda, so I usually just get a glass of water or a bottle of San Pellegrino if I'm feeling crazy. My friends, on the other hand, usually order expensive drinks, expensive courses like seafood and steak, and even get appetizers, which I don't eat. So when we split the bill, it comes out to at least $150 at least every time. I almost never contribute more than $20 to the bill, sometimes even only like $15 total. My friends always insist that we split the bill, which I find extremely annoying because I should be paying significantly less. However, whenever I try to pay for only what I ordered, they all call me a cheapskate and say they won't go out to eat with me if I keep being cheap. Last night when we went out, I decided to be petty. I ordered a total of 3 glasses of their most expensive wine, some sort of fancy charcuterie board for the appetizer, and the most expensive item on the entire menu, which was some sort of steak. I even ordered a slice of tiramisu for dessert. My dinner alone ended up being $150. We split the bill once again, but I could tell they were irritated. This morning, I woke up to a block of text in our group chat, basically saying that he was upset, and they knew I was doing what I did to upset them. My other 2 friends agreed with him. I feel kind of bad, but I also feel like what I did is only fair, because they do the reverse to me all the time. Am I the jerk? Edit. I just realized I should mention that I do just fine financially, and that the extra money I spend because of the bill splitting doesn't impact me in any significant way. Not the jerk, but why are you friends with these people? They sound awful. Tell them via text that you did exactly what they always do to you and to buzz off. Not the jerk. However, if you have a problem with this, then why do you keep going? OP. These dinners are always a great time for me. The only thing I don't like about them is paying the bill. Totally fair. But at what point is it too much? I for sure think you need to have a conversation with them and say you'd feel more comfortable paying your own way, but you love them and still want to come.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.